Good afternoon. I'll call this General Services Public Works Committee meeting to order on April 12th, 2021 at noon. And today we have 3 items on our agenda, starting with our Police Chief Wee White on the approval of an interstate mutual law enforcement assistance agreement with the Spokane Police Department. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I actually presented this about 2 weeks ago at your sister committee, but we had a small typo, or a couple of them actually, with the agreement. This is largely a housekeeping item. The city of Coeur d'Alene has had mutual aid agreements with other law enforcement agencies for as long as anyone can remember. It's permitted in Idaho code. Our legal department has taken a look at it, and so has the city of Spokane's. Originally, like I said, it was presented a couple of weeks ago. However, the city of Spokane asked for a couple of changes in the wording of the agreement, and so we kind of pushed pause for a couple of weeks, and so we're back at it again. Originally, the agreement also was between us and Spokane and county, but rather than do agreements with both at the same time, they thought it was more appropriate that we do one separately with county and one separately with the city of Spokane. So that's what I'm asking for today, is just to allow the mayor to sign into an agreement with the city of Spokane for mutual aid assistance.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
No, Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to recommend that council approve mutual law enforcement assistance mutual aid agreement with the Spokane Police Department for law enforcement activities.
Just one curiosity, do we have one with or looking at with Spokane Valley?
We have one currently with Spokane Valley and Spokane City.
Okay.
This is just an update of the existing one with Spokane City.
Okay,
Second.
yep. Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And our second item is approve the submission for and acceptance of a grant from the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program for the purchase of personal protective equipment and reimbursement of overtime costs.
Well, hello again. This is a grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance with the pass-through through the Idaho State Police. Allows us to seek reimbursement for COVID-related equipment and overtime associated with the COVID pandemic. What we're asking for today is to apply for and accept, if awarded, approximately $38,000 under this grant. This is completely separate from the other grants that the city's applied for that have been brought before you previously. This one is specific just to law enforcement type activities. It's about, and the numbers are still evolving, we're still making sure that we have everything solid before we apply, but it's roughly at this point about $11,000. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's about $5,000 in additional personal protective equipment, and the rest of it is overtime related to the COVID pandemic in terms of backfilling when officers are out, or also some of the downtown bar patrols, because we're able to show that roughly 50% of our arrests and activities are coming from individuals over in Spokane where they were still shut down while our city was not, and things of that nature.
So just to clarify, in our staff report, it says $10,000 for reimbursement of overtime expense to include the purchase of PPE at $10,000, and then the remainder for overtime. And so you're saying $5,000.
Well, the PPE that we spent already is $5,000. We're waiting to get the rest of the information back from Stephen Moran to see exactly how much he forecasted he thinks we're going to need throughout the end of this budget year, or this grant award time frame. So we're estimating about $10,000 for that, but once again, it's a little fluid. We're still trying to get that number locked down. But roughly, the entire grant amount should be roughly $38,000.
Thank you.
Sorry for the confusion there.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Chief, I'm just so glad to see that you're finding all these different grants, and specifically that will address our overtime budget, which, as you've already stated, has been it's being depleted constantly. So I'm just pleased that you've been able to find even more areas. Maybe we could make that up. Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to recommend council approve the submission for and acceptance of grants from the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program for the purchase of personal protective equipment and reimbursement of overtime costs associated with the coronavirus response in the amount of $38,000.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes. Thank you. And item number 3, I welcome our city engineer, Chris Bosley, with us today for approval of abandonment of water and stormwater easements on property owned by Active West LLC.
Thank you, council members, for having me before you today. So today's item is for abandonment of a couple easements. This mouse apparently does not work. So with the Union subdivision that Active West had constructed, which in this GIS photo here, it shows where that is at. This photo was taken before the subdivision was built, so it doesn't actually show the roads, but it shows the alignment here. Well, when they put that plat together for that subdivision, they included one access utility easement right here that I highlighted in blue so that you can see it apart from the rest of their lots that are slated for residential development. Well, with the prior to construction of that subdivision, there were some water lines and storm sewer lines that ran through that area, and I attempted to highlight those a little bit here in blue and green to show you how they cross that site. Well, they cross some developable parcels out there. So with that new easement that they put in, which is actually right here, they relocated all those pipes to go within that easement. Now, to be able to sell those pieces, they need to abandon those easements so that they can sell those. So this is the vacation easement exhibit that shows where those easements are today, and those are to be vacated. With that, I would ask for approval to abandon those, sign the agreement with them so that they can sell those lots.
Any questions?
I think that's exactly what we want to do. We need to maximize the potential for property to sell. So I would be glad to make that motion to recommend that council approve the abandonment of water and stormwater easements on property owned by Active West LLC.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With no further business, that concludes our General Services Public Works meeting for today.
Bingo. Okay.
Wow, that was 10 minutes.